Good morning again, everyone. Okay, we try it one more time. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, super. Thank you. Okay, it works. I will teach people to do that. I'm happy to see you all again this morning. I hope everyone enjoyed the keynotes and Karsten's start of the conference. Again, my name is Thomas Maurer. I recently joined Microsoft. Actually, I saw that from Bill Gates, that comment from Bill Gates, and I thought I need to give them a call. So my team basically is the Cloud Advocates team. I explained a little bit about what we are doing, and for me it's very important, again, and I cannot stress it enough, to get your feedback on things. What is working for you? What is not working for you? Where can we improve? And I think that's one of the big things we do in our team, to then speak with the feature teams and the product teams to basically help them prioritize what they should work on. So in this session, I will talk about Windows Server 2019. Well, 45 minutes, never going to cut it. There's so much great stuff in Windows Server 2019. But luckily, Karsten puts together this conference where you have a ton of great sessions. You have Kenny talking about Azure Stack. Then you have people from the product team, which are going to speak a lot about storage spaces direct and Windows Server, and you're going to have like real deep dive scenarios. So also speak to them, go to their sessions, ask questions. I really want to highlight that. In my session, I will give you a little bit of an overview, and I will a little bit focus on the things which are probably not that highlighted, right? Which are probably a little bit hidden or people did not know about it. And to start, I quickly want to give you a little bit of a update about, or like an overview about the Windows Server stuff, because there's a lot of things happening, and if you don't work with Windows, like, don't keep an eye on it all the time, it's sometimes difficult to understand what's going on. So there's this thing about Windows Server as a service, and if you think about it, we have that long-term servicing channel, the LTSC builds, Windows Server 2016, Windows Server 2019, and all the previous basically server releases we had, they are LTSC. It was called like LTSC, LTSB before that, which gives you 5 plus 5 years support and things like that. However, who has heard about the SAC releases, the semi-annual channel releases? Okay, couple of hands, like 20% of the room, even less. These are versions we release like twice a year, right? And these are mainly focused to keep up with this fast-going cloud cadence. So let's quickly have a look at that and explain that a little bit different. Again, as I said, the LTSC releases, the long-term servicing branch for the major Windows Server, the things we all know and run for years now. But we also have these SAC releases, and the reason for that, again, keeping up with that investment, what's happening in the cloud, right, with that cloud cadence of releases. Especially think about containers, right? I had my container talk yesterday at the community days, and if you look at it, what happens in the container world, releasing an operating system every 2 to 3 years, it's just not going to cut it, right? There's just not enough time to bring that, and we cannot wait to have new features in that space, and that's one of the reasons we have these SAC releases. So long-term servicing branch, again, 2 to 3 years when we release those, and the SAC releases twice a year. There's also a difference in support. So with long-term servicing channel, it's 5 plus 5 years, plus then, depending on extended security support, which is like coming for the Windows 2008 scenario, and I will talk a little about that. And then we have 18 months of support when it was announced. Windows, I think, and Office 365, they changed to, I think, 21 months. Is it still correct that it's 18 months? Okay, good. Same for me. So that's the thing about the SAC releases, right? If you have a quick look at the graphic thing, Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2, we had this LTSC releases, again, 5 plus 5 years support. And then we had, with the release of Windows 2016, we had another LTSC release with desktop experience and core server. But we also had this thing called Nano Server, which was then in the CBB, current branch for business, one, which then was renamed basically to SAC. Which was only supported for a shorter time in that case. And by the way, it's now out of support. However, NanoServer is still there, right, as a container image. So be very clear here. It went away as an installation option on a normal server. However, it's there as an image, as a container. And then we had those SEC releases, right, with Windows 1709, 1803, 1809. Again, we had those like short term of support. And then we also had, or probably will have 1903 in like probably very soon or a couple of months, whatever. There's no timeline yet, or no official date, let's put it that way. And then we also had the LTSC release of Windows Server 2019, which again is the current version and the version we are going to talk about today. So, and then what I also want to make a little bit clear, and I think people like that in terms of when I saw in presentations, people take a lot of picture of that table, because there are a lot of things going on. There are code names, there are version numbers, there are names. So I'm going to show you a little history here. So the first release of Windows 10 basically was Threshold 1, which did not have a server release back in the day. It was just a client release. And then we had Threshold 2, which is also a client release. And with then the first version, which we changed to Redstone 1, we basically added Windows Server 2016. That was the Windows Server 2016 release. And then we had an RS2 release for Windows 10, RS3, where we then had like the first SAC release. Well, not 100% true, but the first SAC release for Windows Server version 1709. Which was then the false creator update in Windows World, RS4, and then with 1809 we got RS5 with Windows Server 2019, right? That was basically the last long-term service release. So you can see we have different version numbers, we have code names, we have build numbers, and so on. So let's talk a little bit about that. Windows Server 2019, obviously, you can download it today. You can start using it today. You can go to MSDN, Volume Licensing Portal, or the Evaluation Portal to get it and start using it today. And I think what's very important to understand, it's part, I showed that in the keynote as well, I think it becomes part of our hybrid story, right? It doesn't mean you always need to use Azure. You can still use Windows Server on-prem, and I'm going to show you a couple of features which are on-prem only. But it extends our capabilities we have from Azure into like your data centers. And with Azure Stack, again, you get our Azure services, or a subset of our Azure services, into your data center. But with Windows Server and other technologies like SQL and containers, you can basically also leverage the power of Azure just for things you probably need. If you want to like use Azure Backup to do the long-term storage of your data, you can do that. And if you look at the innovations happening in Windows Server, you can basically put that in four different categories, right? Hybrid, hyper-converged, security, and application innovation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about all of them, but very important here, we have, again, we have people from the product group here talking about hyper-converged stuff, about the hyper-converged infrastructure. So if you're interested in that, definitely go to those sessions, which go a little bit deeper into that. So let's start with hybrid. The key thing, I personally think, as a not Microsoft employee, a couple of months back, I was thinking, why do we make it so hard for people to start using Azure services, right? Why is like, for us, when you work all the time with Azure, things are like, okay, that's how you do it, and that's how it works. But when you get just started with Azure, it can be a big step to go forward, right? And so that's what we are addressing. And there is Windows Admin Center. The number is probably way higher now with the downloads. But Windows Admin Center was released as a management solution, a web-based management solution to manage your Windows servers. And it allows you to create that hybrid connectivity with some of the Azure services. And I'm going to show you that in a quick demo, how that looks like. Good. So again, the other thing Windows Server, the Windows Admin Center does, it replaces those local-only tools, right? Think about like certificate management and others, which were only available on the local management experience. So you had to RDP into the system, open that, and manage that. With Windows Admin Center, you get this remote management capabilities. So you can basically do that, and it replaces your local-only tools as well. And then we have the hybrid integration, as I mentioned, with several different things, like the Azure Network Adapter, which I'm going to show you in a quick demo, which allows you to connect to your Azure virtual networks directly within a server. You can directly configure Azure Site Recovery to replicate virtual machines from Hyper-V to Azure. You can use Azure Backup to quickly integrate that. And I think, personally, super interesting, also Azure Update Management. If you never played with Azure Update Management, have a look at this. It's basically a patch management solution for all your Windows and also for Linux systems. Doesn't matter where they're running. If they're running in Azure, or if they're running in your data center, or if they're running on another cloud provider, this is a service you can use everywhere. And then, obviously, the last one, well, the list is probably even longer, but one of them, Azure FileSync, right? Basically extending your file servers to the cloud and replicating them across different locations. So with that, let me quickly show you a demo. Okay, so here I am on a Windows Server 2019 server, and I'm logged in, and I did install Windows Admin Center here on that system. However, you don't need to install Windows Admin Center of each of your system. You just need to install one in theory, and then you can do a remote PowerShell. It uses PowerShell remoting to connect to that system. However, since I'm only running one machine here, I directly installed it on that one. Who is, by the way, using Windows Admin Center? Okay, well, nice, 50% of the room. So there's still room to improve, but it's good, perfect. With that, let me quickly zoom in for you, that you have a little bit more. So the latest version is 1904 of Windows Admin Center, and it brings a couple of new things. And you can see here on the left side, I have the extensions, and where I can do, like, for example, let's go into the device manager. So I have a web-based device manager where I can see all my devices. I can go into event view. I can configure the firewall, for example. I can do a bunch of interesting things here. I can also go to the registry, web-based registry editor. How cool is that? I know small things make me super happy. The other thing I want to show you now is the Azure Network Adapter. So there are some Azure hybrid services here, which you can connect your systems very simply to the Azure part. And the only thing I did before, so you don't think I'm cheating here, the only thing I already registered Windows Admin Center to Azure, right? That's the only thing I did to make that work. So in Azure, I have a virtual machine running. Let's see if I can zoom in here. So you can see it has a private IP address, 10.0.0.4, in an Azure virtual network, in a virtual subnet. And obviously, if I now, from my VM, which runs on that machine here, if I'm obviously going to ping that, obviously, it's not reachable, right? Why should it be? Okay. So what we have here, let's go back into the admin center. And if you go to network, okay. If you go to network, you can see your network adapters running on that specific system. You can configure them and manage them as you would. However, what you also have is this Add Azure Network Adapter feature. Now, this basically, if I use this, it quickly allows me to set up a Azure Network Adapter, which is a point-to-site VPN connection to my Azure Virtual Network. So the only thing I need to do, because I registered it, you can see my subscription here. I can choose the location. Let's do, yeah, it's just West Europe, huh? Let me see. Okay, so I have West Europe here. And now it detects that I run several different virtual networks within that region. So I can select the one I want to connect. And the good thing here is it realizes now that I'm running already a VPN gateway in Azure, one of our virtual network gateways. If I wouldn't do that, it will just create that virtual gateway for me. And so I'm running that. I'm not going to create this because I already created that VPN. So I have an Azure Network Adapter here. So if I go back and I just do a ping here, Very sophisticated tool. So I just click on connect, and what happens, if everything works, you can see I'm now connected from that server directly into the Azure Virtual Network using a point-to-site VPN connection. Now, where is that useful? Obviously, if you do have your site-to-site VPN connection, you're not going to leverage that. But think about the branch offices or single servers you run at some service providers because you have to, and you want to somehow leverage your systems which are running in the Azure world, you can do that. Right? Very, very simple without buying a device or having a cost of the hardware manufacturer to do the site-to-site VPN. So this is one of the hybrid features we have in there. I cannot show you all of them because we also have other things to cover, but this is super interesting. So the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is what we did in the hyperconverged infrastructure stuff. So hyperconverged infrastructure, just to make clear that we are all on the same level here, if you look into a little bit in traditional infrastructure, we had like a storage infrastructure with our SANs. We probably have fiber storage. We had a storage networking infrastructure for that. We had our virtualization servers. So we needed like some appliances and things like that for the networking part, for doing VPNs and things like that. Today, all of that we are thinking about it as software. Right? We try to put as much intelligence into software and just start using commodity hardware for that, what we are doing there. And so this is how we do it in other parts of Microsoft as well, but we also offer that now in Windows Server 2019 as one of the solutions out there. So, good. Now, I promise you I will talk about features which are not that highly known. So one of them is System Insights. Who knows about System Insights? Okay, 6 hands, that's very good. Everyone else is probably tired or just not knowing about it. So System Insights is basically when we use machine learning to help you predict what's happening to your servers, right? And we're looking at, we have different capabilities which go and scan things. We collect data from event logs and system data and performance counters, and then do some analysis on it and help you to proactively protect your systems of failures and capacity management and things like that. And very important here, this is all running locally on the machine. It's not any way connected to the cloud, so it's not we collecting the data with other solutions we have. This is really built into Windows Server, so this is something you can use without any Azure connectivity or anything at all. So very important to know that. So what can we do today? So what's built in, we have 4 capabilities built in. Volume consumption forecasting, storage, total storage forecasting, CPU capacity forecasting, and network capacity forecasting. So very interesting features. So we can see, or you can see on your servers, okay, when I'm running out of storage on a specific volume, right? When do I run out of CPU capacity? Or think about your virtualization hosts, where you're not sure, am I still good, or am I going to hit some capabilities there? So the way how that works, and let's have a look at volume consumption forecasting. So this is again Windows Admin Center. I'm going to show you the other way in a bit live, but this is Windows Admin Center, and you can see I'm using the System Insights feature here and the extension, and you can see that the volume has a warning, and another one even has an alert. And then if we drill into that, we can see that the volume B now is probably exceeding the storage in like the next 3 days, right? If we go into that, we have a little bit more information. And again, this uses the usage data and the lessons learned from the last days, right? We collect that data, or you guys collect that data on that. And the cool thing, we don't just tell you run out of space, we also tell you what to do next, right? So on the bottom, you can see a couple of different actions you can take. Obviously, you can extend your volume. So just make it larger. Very simple solution for that problem. Or you can use Azure FileSync. So if it's a file server volume, you probably want to use Azure FileSync, which then helps you doing tiering of data to the cloud. So you only keep, like, let's say, 5 gigabytes or like 10 or 2 terabytes of storage from your 4 terabyte data on your on-premise system. Or you just use this cleanup to basically clean up your stuff. And obviously, there are other steps you can take, but that's where we try to help. So let me quickly show you a demo. Again, this was now the print screen you have seen from Windows Admin Center, and that's basically the UI solution we have for that. But if you don't want to use Windows Admin Center, or your boss doesn't allow you to use it for some reason, you can still use it in PowerShell. So what I have here, let's first go and have a look at the PowerShell module. So I installed already the System Insights feature. It's a feature which you can enable over PowerShell or Server Manager to use it, and then you enable those capabilities. So you have commands to enable those capabilities, and the good thing, by the way, you can also build your own capabilities, right? So if we gave you 4, and probably maybe the product teams will extend it later. However, you can build your own on the same technology. So you can use PowerShell to manage that. So let's see what we have here. Oh, sorry for that. Quickly this. See that a little bit better. So these are the 4 capabilities. There, you can see they are enabled, and they are OK. And if I want to have a little bit of a more insights, I can, for example, go, let's do this. Put the name in. And then you get the information that status is OK, and the forecast for that looks very, very good. So you can build that basically into your monitoring solutions or in your existing solutions to basically check that status of those systems. And as soon as something hits the threshold and gives you, OK, the warning, you can basically react on that, right? I think that's pretty cool and a pretty smart feature. Do so. OK. So the next thing, we talk a little bit about storage. Again, I don't want to cover too much because we have some really great sessions which cover that in full. But there's a lot of different things happening. Again, we have Windows Admin Center integration, which basically allows you to configure the storage parts, also S2D, for example, directly within Windows Admin Center. You get now deduplication support for our REFS systems, file system. We did a bunch of the team did a bunch of work on mirror accelerated parity. So if you're running storage spaces direct, you can choose between mirror or parity, but you also have something in between. So the performance of that got improved. Built-in of storage class memory. So I'm not sure if you have seen Didier's talk on that, where he goes into that, what it actually is. So it's using persistent storage, so you get the speed from memory, but you can still store persistent data on it. And that really helps, especially if you look at caching scenario and things like that, where you want to use that. Or even very small databases where you need the maximum performance. Or even large databases if you have the money for it, right? Then cluster sets, which gives you a way of managing multiple clusters. So we have a couple of customers which have a lot of different clusters, and managing each cluster alone is a little bit of a challenge. So you can use cluster sets to do that. And then the team worked hard to improve those numbers. Those are the numbers they showed at Ignite, with basically just increase of storage capacity and also of the size of volumes in that case, right? So you can now have up to 4 petabytes of storage in a single cluster. And then in Windows Server 2016, there was this like 6 million IOPS kind of industry record. Windows Server 19 improved that to like 13 million IOPS. So in my personal opinions, I have a couple of systems seen out there. Windows Server Storage Spaces Direct is one of the ones which performs really, really well, right? Good, and that's also thanks to our the innovation the hardware vendors are doing. So, for example, Intel here is one of the guys who are building persistent memory, which then allows you to take care of those fast speed. Because even though the software can do a lot, there's still some physical limits when you store data, right? There's still at the end somewhere where you need to store data. And I think Intel also has a booth here, so you can also go out to talk to them about their solutions, what do you have there. Again, another thing which I want to mention, the other thing, it's not just about speed, it's also about capacity. So if you want to use high level, you need a lot of capacity. Storage Spaces Direct gives you a great solution to store lots and lots of data. Good. We also have some improvements in SDN, so in the software-defined networking stack. Now, does anyone run the SDN stack, like really by yourself? Okay, a couple of events. Good. So you're going to be super happy about Windows Server 2019, right? So there is now announced the support for virtual network peering. So you can now connect different virtual networks. You get encryption. You get the IPv6 single and dual stack support. And a bunch of other improvements. Especially want to highlight, I think, which is for most of our customers interesting who are using that, is the gateway performance improvements we did, because that was kind of like where a couple of limitations were, which the team did improve. Good. So next up, I want to talk about security. And, oh, sorry about that. That's something not good. OK. Oh, before I switch to security, I want to highlight that one. So who has heard about Azure Stack HCI solutions? Good. Yeah, well, Kenny doesn't count, but it's good. A couple of hands. So Azure Stack HCI solutions was announced, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And what it actually is, it brings another member to the Azure and Azure Stack family. So obviously, we have the public cloud with Azure, which gives you these Azure services, the Azure portal, and all the stuff I showed also a little bit in the keynote. And then we used Azure Stack a couple of years ago when we announced it to bring basically those Azure services into your data center, running on our Windows Server technology, using storage spaces direct and Hyper-V, but in an integrated system approach, right? So you don't have to take care of it. Now, not all of our customers want to use like just cloud services, right? You also want to run virtualization workloads, and that's absolutely a great thing to do. And when I talked about hybrid, I told you that, okay, one thing is to bring the services down, but another thing is to connect services. So you can do that. And with Windows, with Azure Stack HCI solution, we give you basically those validated hardware parts. So we validate the hardware together with the OEMs. And make sure that Windows Server 2019 really performs with storage space direct and Hyper-V really performs really well. There are no issues with drivers, and we also simulate stress tests and things like that. And then they get the validation. So for example, we have a couple of vendors out there. I think all of the hardware vendors out there have solution in that space. We also have a catalog online where you can have a look at it, where you can pick the right solution for you. And we give that out. And the whole thing is basically validated hardware, Windows Server 2019, and on top, you can use Windows Admin Center to manage the whole solution, right? And it's highly customized. It does not come as an integrated system. So basically, you can go out and install it by yourself and build it exactly the way you want it. Good. So now we talk about security. And in Windows Server 2019, we have a lot of security features. And again, I was talking about it in Windows Server 16, right? Probably remember, a couple of you remember the talks I did on that. In terms of time, I want to highlight two things, which we're doing here. So first of all is Windows Defender ATP integration. So if you're using Windows Server or Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, you can now also integrate your Windows Server into that one and get like threat analytics and things like that. And the other thing is, if you're running shielded virtual machines, you get some extra capabilities. Anyone in the room who leverages shielded virtual machines? OK. Everyone knows who shielded virtual machines is? OK. For those who don't, shielded virtual machines are basically encrypted virtual machines, if you will, where we protect the content of the virtual machine from the admin on the host, right? If you today probably, or a couple of years ago, didn't have that feature, if you were a virtualization admin, you basically had access to all the VMs. You could just simply take one. You could open the VHD. You can go and access it. And with shielded virtual machines, we do protect you from these malicious administrators or also attackers who just hack a host, right? And then from there, go into other virtual machines. And trust me, this is a great feature for Swiss banks, especially with the tax CDs and things like that, which we gave to you guys. Voluntarily, obviously. So that's where IT people got into data, copied that, and sold it to the German government, right? That's one thing. So this helps protect of that. And then there was a huge improvements we did in 2019 with, for example, now you have Linux support. So we basically can add that. And if you use that service, we also a couple of things like the improvements with the host guardian services, which is part of that. And then we also have that single host binding for real virtual machines. So think about those secure admin workstations you have probably in your environment. You can bind that to a specific laptop and make sure that no one can copy that one. And so the admin can only access the environment with that specific laptop and with that specific virtual machine running on it. You can have multiples of those, but he cannot take them home and access the environment from them, right? So that's another cool feature we have there, and a lot of other stuff here as well. Okay, so let's move to the more or less last topic for that talk. So we did a bunch of stuff with support for in-place upgrade in Windows Server 2019. There was a huge amount of testing going into that. It sounds like a very small thing, but actually a lot of testing and engineering went into that one to make sure that we can in-place upgrade systems. Probably you agree, it's not always the right thing to do an in-place upgrade. There are certain scenarios where you're probably better off doing a refresh install. In some scenarios, you're even faster, right, doing that. But think about those scenarios where you have a very old application. The guy who installed that application left. Obviously, he did not write the documentation, but you still want to go and leverage a newer version of Windows, you can do that as well. And then we did the container team, and who was in my container talk yesterday in the community? Okay, a couple of hands, that's good. So the team did a lot of work on improving the container experience, and they do that not just on the big releases like Windows Server 2019, they also do that, as mentioned, with the SAC releases. So if you look at this was a print screen I took a couple of months back already, maybe even longer, where you can see the nano server image changing in size, right? So you had the nano server which was 1 gigabyte in size for a container image, which is compared to other container images out there, very, very large. So the team went down to 200 megabytes, and today I think we are even under 100 megabytes or around 100 megabytes, right? So the team does really improve, not just on size, but also on startup speeds and so on. And then we also have implemented the Windows Subsystem for Linux. I've showed you quickly in the keynote the next version of it, but the first version allows you to run basically a Linux distribution on your machine, on your Windows 10 machine, but it's also available on your Linux machine, on your Windows Server machine, right? Next to that, we ported some of the IT Pro tools, or of the tools running on Linux. We ported tar, curl, and OpenSSH, so you can now do SSH remoting to a Windows server or from a Windows 10 client. You have SSH built in, right? So you can use that. And if you, for example, look at PowerShell Core 6, there's also an SSH transport. So if you want to have connect from a Windows system to a Linux system or the other way around, you can do that using SSH, right? And you can use that just on a Windows 10 machine. You can add that as an optional feature, the client and the server. You can do that on a server. You would do that by get Windows capabilities on your Windows virtual machine. And then there are some configuration steps if you install the server, obviously, which you need to take care of, but that's very well documented. And then you have the SSH client. So if you do an SSH before on Windows, you had to download PuTTY and other things like that. That's not needed anymore with that specific client built in, so you can use that. You can either use WSL to basically do an SSH connection, and you have all the Linux tools ready, or you can just use the built-in, the ported SSH version, as I just showed you. Then there are some updates to Hyper-V, and obviously one of them is the UEFI boot screen, which was a little bit nicely designed. It made it a little bit easier to manage and restart if you start that as well, which I think is pretty cool. Small, but still, I'm happy about small things as well. And then let me show you quickly the Windows Subsystem on Linux here. So on my Windows Server, I go back into that. So here I'm on my Windows Server, and the thing I did, I already downloaded in my distribution folder. You can see I downloaded the WSL Ubuntu 18.04. If I go into that, You can see here different files, and you can also see ubuntu.exe, which I think is kind of cool. And then we can start that. And voila, we are in a Linux environment now. So if I do a uname-a, you can see I'm now running a Linux here. And I get tools like SSH and others, all those Linux tools I want to use. So I don't have to switch to a Linux server or something if I just need a small tool. And this is also very handy on the clients, and it helps developers especially to use that as well. Who does use, by the way, WSL? Who does, like, big fan? OK, good. Good. I always see like kind of like the same people. So that's good. OK. Perfect. So let me switch back here. Not very good with computers, by the way. OK, so something also not a lot of people know, and they only see it when they download it. When you paid a little bit close attention when I showed you the download page, you probably have seen something, a thought package like FOD. So this is something interesting I'm going to talk about right now. So our recommended installation thing, obviously, is Windows Server Core. Who is using Windows Server Core? Wow, that's a good amount of hands, like over half of the room. I mean, there are still reasons not to use Server Core, right? And we completely acknowledge that. So you have like server with desktop experience. And certain reasons are just dependencies for certain applications, right? Which has APIs which are only available in the full desktop experience. Even though it's an application which runs in the background, it needs certain APIs. Or what I also see, let me show you that in a bit. So what we added is this feature on demand package, that thought package, which is an additional download, and then you can integrate that, and it gives you a couple of more APIs and software packages, so the application basically is more compatible with your Windows Server Core installation. So if you have that application which didn't run on Core, you can try it out if it now works. We also give you a couple of tools in there. So for example, if you use Device Manager and all those local-only tools, which were not really there and made it sometimes very hard to use, you can use that as well. So we really give you a couple of options, like the feature-on-demand capabilities, or even Windows Admin Center to do better remote management, to let you guys use more and more of Windows Server Core. What's also, by the way, interesting with the feature-on-demand, you also get Internet Explorer. So you can even install Internet Explorer on your Windows Server Core. And now the question is, why would you do that, right? So one of the reasons I see is like when you have a physical server and you have some of the right controller software, and a lot of them are using web front end to basically configure the right software and things like that, and doing this striping or whatever you're using. And you can basically just start it up locally and manage that on even if you're running Windows Server Core. However, don't install it if you don't need it. Try to keep your footprint low. But if there are reasons you need it, just add it. Good. And the last one I want to mention is end of support for 2008, right? 2008 R2. I'm not going to ask now who is still running those. I like the reaction of the room. Yeah, so support is coming. Not just winter, but also the end of support is coming. And yeah, so we give you a couple of different options what you can do. Obviously, migrate to a newer version of Windows Server as soon as you can, right? In some scenarios, that isn't that easy. So we end up probably buying extended security support, which gives you then another 3 years of support for Windows Server on that. Or what we do now is if you migrate your Windows Server 2008 to Azure, or 2008 to R2 to Azure, we give you the 3 years extended security support for free. And this also works if you run it on Azure Stack, right? So if you buy an Azure Stack and you migrate 2008 R2 to it, you get that extended security support. One thing to mention, though, as of today, it's only Azure Stack, not the Azure Stack HCI solution, right? So make sure you check that with your licensing specialist if you work with that to do so. And then again, we have others, especially those banks which sometimes run very large software, very old software, not very large one, very old software. They go out and buy extended security support, so they get time to basically migrate to a newer version like Windows Server 2019, right? And then I get a lot of questions about System Center 2019. So System Center 2019 is available right now. You can download it. It extends management of Windows Server 2019. It also enables you some Azure integrations, one of the parts I showed you in Windows Admin Center. We also have things like this in System Center. And again, now the question often comes up, do I use Windows Admin Center or use System Center? And they're not against each other, right? Those are like different scenarios which you can use, and you can also use both at the same time, right? So if you want to manage at scale, you probably start, you have System Center, but if you want to go into that and you need to do some admin task, or if you need to manage some parts of storage space direct with better performance analytics and things like that, or get some admin tasks done, then you probably go and choose Windows Admin Center. And again, you can have both side by side running on your systems. Good, we're done with that. So if you want to learn more, I highly recommend our team's blog, itopsdoc.com. That's where we work on IT ops or IT pro related topics. This is not just Azure. We're also focusing on Windows Server and other topics like that to make you more successful. And if you have any topics you want to know more about, or if you have any questions, reach out to us. We monitor that hashtag ACOps. On Twitter, so you can always reach us over Twitter, but you can also reach out to us personally, and I'm really looking forward to talk to some of you to find out what's working, what's not. And then I'm also super happy if you follow me on Twitter or follow my blog. Yeah.